meeting is being recorded.
Okay, letting you know. So thank you for joining me, guys. I know Amy quite well because we worked together for quite some time, and I know you guys know me as well. So I won't do a big introduction or anything other than to just share, I guess, the concept around COVID conversations for me was that I started to feel really, a concern for everyone. Everyone's really stressed and worried about what's going on. And I felt like I could help in some way. And then I'm having conversations all the time with people who, have been dealing with this for 2 years in Melbourne versus people who've just been going through it recently. And here in SA, you guys are all in SA. So we can certainly talk about SA today a lot more as well. I think the things that pop up consistently are around staff wellbeing. Obviously, we have some pretty big concerns right now in our sector. And I think if you said you weren't concerned, you'd be lying, wouldn't you? That, people are just going, is it worth it? What's the point? We're not being seen. We're not being heard, all of that sort of thing. What's the new rule? And I think people are challenged by leadership aren't telling us what to do, but it's sort of like, well, nobody knows yet. Or, even yourself, Amy, with this new situation, the rules changed today and then the rules might change again tomorrow. And so being able to communicate with the team effectively with rules constantly changing is really challenging. I was listening to a Brene Brown podcast the other day and she was saying, where are all the adults? Who's adulting? Like, who's in charge here? Because it feels like that, doesn't it? It feels like, how do we know who's in charge and who's making decisions and how do we keep track of these decisions? And I know that it's really challenging for everyone. So I wanted us to just go around, introduce yourself and just share what you're currently experiencing and your current challenges are. What you'd like to talk about today. I've got a bit of I've got a list obviously there, but anything that you're really keen to get out of this conversation today. So can we start with you, Holly? Just unmute. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Holly. I've been at El Nido for too many years. I don't know, maybe 15 years in total. Wow. Yeah, so I started obviously out as a student doing my diploma, and then now assistant director within the childcare side, and been doing that for about 5 years now. Right. Obviously a few maternity leaves in between, and so I have 2 children of my own. Passion, dedication, commitment. Obviously, I've been at this site for a long time. I've seen different things. There's obviously been lots of journeys, lots of challenges. Yeah. But that pretty much is me in a teacup.
So how do you balance this current challenge with what you've experienced before?
I think, like you said, it's just having the balance between the communication, what people need to know when they need to know it, not overwhelming people, but making them feel secure. Yeah. I think that's really what the challenge is, but also giving people their own time to reflect on their own, that at the end of the day, they also need to come to the party within themselves and realise when they need to take the time to be responsible for their own well-being and stuff like that, as much as being in leadership and being the mentor and being supportive, also giving some of that responsibility back to an individual themselves. I think
otherwise we can carry too much, can't we? We sort of just, then we become the counsellor and the psychologist and the everything. And so I think it's really important, even for you guys right now, to draw some boundaries around what you think is appropriate for you to manage and what you think is appropriate for you not to have to manage. I think it's really, really important. One of the things that I do at the start of each year is I create some rules of engagement for myself. And so what that means, and it changes each year because as my business grows and changes, or even my own well-being or whatever I'm willing to do, it's basically what am I willing to do? And, how many days am I willing to give up and work for? Because if I just said yes to everything and everyone, I could fill 24 hours a day. So I then have my rules of engagement. So for example, I want to have at least 3 Mondays, because my husband has Mondays off. So 3 Mondays a month, I like to have free, where we could go shopping if we need to, go for lunch, or, get the stuff done, like our tax or our, stuff that, or have a meeting with the teachers or appointments or whatever. So for me, those rules of engagement have to be quite solid. And where I don't have that, I then say, if I can't commit to that because someone really wanted training and I'm like, all right, I'll come and do the training, I would then schedule a different day. I'd be like, all right, that Monday I can't have, but I'm going to put it to that Wednesday where I'm not going to commit to any work on that day. Or, so mine is a bit different than what you guys are doing, but certainly in terms of what are your rules of engagement? When someone starts to really offload on you and you notice that you start to feel heavy, or, if they start to talk to you really in depth about, the relationship problems they're having with their partner, or is that when you start to go, is there someone you can talk to about this? Not me necessarily, or is that something, and for each of you it will be different, because you have different relationships with your team. People have different size teams. If you had a team of 5, it might not be so difficult to do that, but when you've got a team upwards of 20, it gets really tricky to be everyone's everything. And you've also got to balance that I have to do work, I still have to get all of this stuff done. So if I'm just everyone's counsellor, then I'm going to need a counsellor, because I now need to get all this work done that I haven't done, everything like that. So what do you currently do in terms of that? How do you judge how much of you to give and how much not to?
As in me?
Oh, yeah, anyone, I guess. Yeah.
I think I've worked out, and it takes a long time, and I think I'm still learning, and I think, I can still change ways that I do things at the moment. And I think that's why, I've taken this opportunity up to do this today, because it isn't evolving and everything, just having information from different people, seeing how other people use and different effective or different systems or different ways of communicating and stuff. You can learn continuously throughout your career, but also, without yourself as well, like on personal and, career side as well. I think I've learned over the time now, literally, I only work 3 days a week.
Okay.
And so normally I don't work Mondays, but then I will have tomorrow off instead.
Yes.
So you make sure that, and I think I've got really, we've bought a work mobile now. So I'm not using my, I'm dividing my professional with my personal and everything like that. The work emails are only open them like I came in today. It was quite long, but then that's fine. If you set things up to say, look, I'm only here these days, then that's how it is. I think it's really, really important. You've got to be able to switch off, because otherwise, like you said, you then end up so heavy that you can't function. And that's why it is really good just to hear other people and see how they're doing it, and just so you're aware and what other things can be done, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. What about you, Nicole? Do you want to explain?
So I've been here. I've been here for 7 years, and I work in the 2 to 3 rooms. I'm primary caregiver, and I've now just taken on the role as 3IC on Mondays and Fridays for a bit. So that's a new experience.
Congratulations.
In COVID times, thank you. In COVID times, it's very different than what it would normally look like. But rolling with the punches, and like Holly said, it's always changing. But I'm very grateful for the opportunity and learning new things and that I can apply to anything. So
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. And our main thing at the minute is communicating with staff and what is necessary that they need to know, you know, revolving COVID, and what are things they don't necessarily need to know like straight away. And like we understand it's very scary and it's very, you know, you want to know everything, but then sometimes when you know everything, you just go a bit loopy. So
I agree. You've got to adjust how much you take in, and also being mindful that the rules do change so quickly. So, you know, if you don't currently have a case, you're almost better off to wait until there's a case and then look at it and go, where are we at, rather than watching every single press conference, reading every single piece of news, because it can just overwhelm you, and then you can't sort of get on and just do what you have to do as well. Awesome. Thank you. And Amy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Amy. I've worked in the sector since 2006, so however long that's been.
Long time.
And I have been at the same centre ever since. So obviously I love what I do, otherwise I would choose to do something else. Even in these tricky times, I absolutely love leading a team. I think I can positively impact them to make a positive difference in children's lives. So I guess my why has changed a lot over the years because I've changed roles. So therefore I need to grow and change my why as well. I think in terms of like that communication with the team, etc. So I lead a team of 33 educators. So it's been really interesting over the last maybe 3 or so weeks when we've had that 7-day closure, and we're currently going through a closure again. So in that sense, it can be quite frustrating, but also just sharing with the team some of the things that I use for my coping tools, because they may or may not even be aware that they actually need to offload themselves. So I've been trying to keep us connected, especially in those times where we're not at the service, and setting like daily tasks and things for us to try and achieve. And we've actually come out of that with some really cool like things that we're doing now. We have like a little gratitude group that we've started up. Just, you know, that's not something that people would have done in the past, but just setting those tasks for 7 days for them to share what they're grateful for. They've absolutely loved it, and it's given them something else to think about other than just work or the negative things that are happening with work, or the fact that we don't get to go to work, but we are still working. So I think for me as well, that was just such an amazing thing, because even on like Saturday morning, actually, after I shared with the team that we would be closing on Friday, one of the gratitudes for one of our team members was the fact that they get to go through this little shitty ride with a team like ours, but also just a reminder that we can only control what we can, and this is something we can't control because it's not our rules and we have to follow them. We can't afford to pay the fines ourselves, so it is just what it is. And I thought, you know what, if I didn't have that set up, like I would have stewed on that all weekend, because I just needed someone to remind me that it is out of my control. So that set me up for a really great weekend, even though I knew was heading into a closure come today. But I was able to like reset sort of thing and reset my mind that actually let's just work with what we can control, and go with that. So
awesome. I think, Holly and Nicole, if you guys aren't doing gratitude, I really encourage that to be something that the team brings in, even if it's, you know, if you've got a really huge team, it could be each team leader does that with their team, or it could be that you have some sort of platform. What kind of platform did you use for that, Amy, that sharing?
Yeah, so we just use Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, Facebook Messenger. And I just like I've done this before with teams where I think it was right before or when I'd resigned my role, when I was looking after sort of 90 services, and I had my 10 area managers and we were really close connected as a team, and they were pretty flat because I'd resigned, and everything was sort of negative mindset. And I remember saying, all right, guys, we've got to shift this. So every afternoon we did a text message of 3 things that we were grateful for. And it just totally organically changed the conversation, the feeling of how everyone was. And so when I was talking to people, they weren't like, no, everything's so hard. It was a lot lighter. So gratitude, I mean, there's science behind it, that it has huge impact on people's well-being and capacity to respond to everyday things. You know, you just respond more effectively to things. I think as a team, it's good to sort of keep them focused on the positives and keep them focused on the task that we have, like you said, Amy, of impacting children in a positive way. You know, if we stop and really think about what children are experiencing right now, it's pretty significantly different than what they were previously experiencing. And if you think about the anxiety that people have, you know, everyone I know has a bit of anxiety, whether they know that it's there or not. The pressure, the changes, the unknown, all of that. And what we tend to do when we're anxious is we try to take control, right? Everybody tries to control things. And one of the things that we can control to an extent is our children. And so I'm hearing and seeing parents at the shop saying, you know, come here, do this, and I'm thinking, you know, I've noticed I do that to my children. I'm probably more controlling right now than I was previously. So what about all the children we're engaging with and supporting, if they're all experiencing that as well, a really heightened, controlled environment? Or the other thing that we would do is completely withdraw. And you might find families just sitting and watching TV for hours and hours and hours and drinking more than they should, or taking drugs or things like that are happening. And the research is showing that there's a really big spike in domestic violence, even in families who haven't previously experienced domestic violence. There's a huge spike in families, you know, fighting and going through divorce and separation. It's a really stressful time. And so I think where we can support the team to shift to that positive focus and adjust what they're doing, I think it makes a huge difference. And I think it's really important work. And one of the things that I was going to show you guys, I made a little thing. Let me just get to it. I made a little slideshow from current slide. Hang on 2 seconds. Now I need to move that. Where is that? Okay. I have to find you guys again. You've gone. Okay, I've got you. All right, I've got too many screens here. There's so many screens. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'll just show you this. I made this up today, and it's just, I thought, you know, what we need is almost like a process to just think through how important are all these things that we're doing, and is there a chance, is there a way that we could actually reduce some of the tasks that they've got? Like, I'm still visiting, when I visit services or I'm talking with services, I'm still, you know, seeing people doing enormous amounts of programming, or things like a reflective journal that they have to do because management said they had to do it, not because it's actually giving them any value. And it's just more writing and more paperwork. So I started to think, what if we had almost like a risk assessment matrix, but for a priority task thing? And so I thought, you know, let's look at, is it a necessity? And if it's a necessity, it's either not required under the National Quality Framework and it's not a necessity, or it is a necessity because it's required under the National Quality Framework or other laws like workplace laws or things like that. And then the priority, and again, I was listening in this podcast I was listening to the other day about from James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits, and he was saying, you know, the word used to be priority, and now we somehow added an S on the end, and now we have all these priorities. And I started to giggle to myself about that, thinking, yeah, that's like, we do overload ourselves. And I know one of the participants who was going to come today, she was asking, one of her feedback things was about how do we, what was she sort of saying? She was saying, like, how do I keep giving stuff to the team without overwhelming them and overburdening them. And I guess what I would say is, before you go rolling anything out or doing anything, go through this process of thinking, you know, is it necessary? Is it a priority? So I guess if it's, you know, not required by the law and it's a low priority, I'm saying let's let this go for a while. You can always pick it back up again. You know, I've been that kind of person who's thrown all these ideas and got excited about things, and then my team go, hey, Michelle, too many balls in the air. Like, let's just, why not even give to your team that sort of opportunity for some control? You could actually give them a piece of paper and say, write down a list of things that you do currently that you think may or may not be necessary, and you could do this vetting process and go, yeah, you know what, let's not write that up anymore, or let's let that thing go, or, you know, let's change the way we do that. If it is not required but you feel like it's urgent, then I'm saying unpack why it's urgent, and are there any modifications you can make to the project or to the thing that you're thinking is urgent. And then where I'm saying it's required under the National Quality Framework or other laws, if it's urgent, I'm saying this is required, so we must get this done and continue this, but can we automate it or get it completed quickly so that we can remove this from our focus? So if it's, say, you go, all right, well, we have to do a work health safety checklist or something once a month, and it's required, you know, under our requirements, then how can we get this either automated, that it's done in little bits, or just get it out of the way, get rid of it. Someone just is committed to that for a day and then it's done. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. And then again, if it's required by the NQF, but it's like a low priority of something that you need to do, then this is required still. So we need to continue doing this. But again, what systems could you put in place to automate it, to make it easier? You know, people tend to follow the path of least resistance. So if you can make it easier for them or quicker for them, I think that's really important. And, you know, things like documentation of children's learning. Some services have really strong requirements that they must do 3 stories per month or whatever. You know, can you reduce that? There is no requirement for a particular amount of documentation for children. So could you extend it out? Could you sort of go, all right, we used to do once per month. Can we do 1 a term for now? But we'll have other, you know, examples of paperwork or something, or examples of observations. What do you guys think of that? Do you think that would add value to just unpack things in that way and literally try and get rid of some things?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually did this probably before our first closure, so maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, when it come to our risk assessments. Like, my mind is blown. I had no system for that whatsoever, except for review them all at once. And so we did that, and then I ended up putting them on a 6 monthly schedule. So and I've handed over to the work health and safety officer now, so I've popped it on a schedule for them to review. They've just done the January ones, which I think they did 4. And then February we'll stroll around and they'll do like another 4. So they'll go on like 6 monthly schedules rather than trying to smash them all out at once, which, you know, I'm just like, why did I not think a bit of this earlier? Because that was my most hated task. I absolutely hated doing it. Yeah, I still made myself do it. So I've now created a better system and I've handed it over to someone else to do.
Perfect. I love that. I think we have to do that right now. It's work smarter rather than harder. And we need to reduce anything you can possibly reduce or automate or systemize, do it, or remove, you know, remove, reduce, automate, systemize. Those are like the key things, I think, is just sort it out so that you're not thinking about it, or, you know, it's not at front of your mind and you're not stressed about it. Because if you're stressed about those things, then you know, you've got other things to worry about, like right now, like changing rosters because people have to become close contacts and all of that. You need to be able to work through that sort of stuff rather than stressing about paperwork and things that could effectively be more systemized. What about you guys, Holly and Nicole? Do you have any examples of things that you might be able to remove or reduce from the team? And I feel like that might give them a little bit of incentive as well. Like if you see them and go, you know, we hear that you've got lots and we see actually these 3 tasks or whatever, maybe we don't need to do that anymore or something.
Yeah, I think last year we had an opportunity where the preschool were able to bring in everything of their documentation into one room and put it all over the floor. And then we kind of put it in that pyramid as if to say, is this required? Are we just doing it? Has it just been a flow-on effect because we had one teacher, then another teacher's implemented something else and another teacher's implemented something else, but we've kept every single thing along the way. And then we're trying to role model that through the other rooms. But I think as well, like this matrix here could also be used for individual staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like to role model to them and maybe sit through it with them and give them the opportunity to reflect and write it all down and say, you know, what are you required? Because as much as sometimes when we do communicate to staff saying, look, you don't need to worry, or you know, you need to worry about, you know, being here for your hours and trying not to stay late or trying, you know, not to take it all home on the weekend and all of that kind of stuff. But maybe physically sitting down, drawing it out, writing it down, for some people it may work better. So I think some of like your key things are removed from your focus. Obviously the automatic, if you can do that. I think that's sometimes where that helps. We've got department on our side where we can, you know, they do have some systems that we can use as well. But yeah, no, definitely I think it is also, you know, something that you learn. Like obviously I've been away for a period of time, so there's obviously a lot of things that need to be done within the next, you know, 48 hours when I'm here. But I think I've learned to write a list as well and then start going, okay, what needs to be done first, and then going down. And I think that's also making sure you're actually being aware of how much you've got to do and what time periods you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. And even that, I was just thinking about like one of the little things that I see at services that potentially you could change. And I know you have to go through the process of making sure that you're covering everything off, but it's like the working with children, working directly with children. I don't know if you still have a log, do you, Amy, where you have staff have to write in the rooms? So something like that. So some services I see, and I look at the regulation that talks about we need to have a record of who's working with directly with children at any one time in the rooms, right? Now, some services have a log and the staff, you know, forget that, or they stress, they have to write it down, or they have to do something. And then other services, I can ask them, you know, how do you demonstrate that? Or how do you have a record of that? And they're like, oh, well, our roster has this. And then we do our lunch cover breaks list where it shows that Jenny goes in and covers Sally from 10 to 1. And then Jenny goes in and covers Emma from 1 to 2. And that's in the toddler room. And so then you can see that Emma left or programming time, whatever. And so just through the paperwork that's already done, you're removing a whole document. Does that make sense? So it's something like that. Is there something that the staff have to write, or a checklist that they do, or, you know, say each room has to do an outdoor safety checklist in the morning? Is there one that could you combine it into the whole service and you just have one person go around, check every yard, done? Now we can remove one checklist from each room's responsibility. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, but it's things like that, that if you went around and asked the team, what are the things that take up your time, or what are the things that you forget to do? Like how many times I go to a service on a Thursday and the bathroom checklist hasn't been done all week. And it's like, yeah, so who is doing this bathroom checklist? How can we systemize it and genuinely make it that, you know, that the team aren't feeling stressed and anxious about this thing that they know they have to do, but they're just not really doing? Is there a way that we could have, again, someone does all the bathroom checks at a certain time, and then, I don't know, you know, something to help them so that we can reduce some of the burden, but they might be able to tell you what those things are that they, you know, that they struggle with, and you might be able to come up with some new systems. that's what I reckon I would do, is just, you know, really reduce that focus. I put here as well, I don't know if that's gonna, hang on, I have to go to the next, so many screens, hang on. So yeah, it was basically just that idea of narrow the focus. If you've got ideas or things rolling out of projects, look, sometimes projects and exciting things can be exciting and motivating. So if you're like, oh, we're working on our loose parts outdoor space, that removing that might actually disengage the team, because they might be like, we were really enjoying that. But also it might be something that they're like, oh, thank God we don't have to focus on that right now. It's too much. So ask them, consult with them and say, like, we're trying to narrow the focus. We're trying to remove anything that we don't need. We're trying to reduce the burden on you. Some of the things, of course, we need to go through that matrix and see what's important and what's not. But if there are some things that aren't so important, maybe we can look at how we can either systemize them or reduce them or something like that. I'll just, where is, so yeah, the other thing I wanted to show you guys was this, where is it? Share screen, this one. So I came across this beautiful, can you see that image now? So this image is the Chinese character for Ting, which means this full spirit of listening. And I really liked it. And I thought that it could be something that you could use at the moment to help everyone sort of understand that, you know, we've got to listen to families, children, ourselves, our own bodies, for example, and each other. And when and the Chinese character and the Chinese approach to listening is to really use all of these different senses. So they say you need your ears to hear, your mind to think, your eyes to see, undivided attention to focus, and heart to feel. And I was thinking about, you could apply this, you know, print it out and apply it to even your team's, you know, he was sort of saying, you know, that focus, each person needs to take some responsibility for themselves as well. So even identifying, how do I listen to my own cues? Because honestly, sometimes when you have anxiety or stress or whatever, you don't realize that's what it is. You know, how many people think they're having a heart attack, but really it's an anxiety attack because their heart's going and their chest feels tight and they can't breathe properly. And they don't always know that that's what's happening until it's happening, right? So, you know, how can they go use that whole process of listening to themselves? You know, is their voice shaky, or are they even being really negative? If they use their ears to hear, are they saying lots of negative stuff? Are they being judgmental? Are they blaming other people? Are they blaming the government? Are they, you know, that sort of stuff? If we listen to yourself, chances are that that's the kind of stuff that means you're not really in the right space, and that maybe you need a minute, or you need to implement some, you know, wellbeing strategies. Undivided attention to focus. So even that ability to listen to yourself and know that when you forgot the date for something, or the time for something, or you've forgotten to send your kids lunch, or you didn't realize the roster had changed, or all those types of things are still, again, indicators that you need to take care of yourself and that you're running too fast. And then your heart to feel, just how you're feeling in your heart. Are you feeling happy, connected, well, or are you feeling pretty stressed? And what does that look like for you and for each individual person? So you can also use it for, again, you know, with the families at the moment, being really mindful that they're probably all experiencing the same thing as well. So, you know, we're going into 2 weeks of homeschooling, and that's going to be a big deal for a lot of people. What does that look like? They're going to have to be trying to work and manage kids and, you know, all of that. And then they've got their younger children. There's so much going on. So being able to apply all of those senses to recognize that even when a mum says, I'm fine, you what does your heart tell you she's saying, and how can you support her more or differently, or what is, what are your eyes notice she's doing when she's fine. So yeah, I really like that, and I think it's something that you could introduce as a bit of a conversation starter for your team as well. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. And I think sometimes we forget how many senses we've got. And we always talk about them with the children and how many senses they've got and everything. But as an adult, it's like we seem to be more attuned to one than all of them. So it's just obviously that whole refocusing.
Yeah.
And going deeper.
Yeah. And it's beautiful how it's one symbol.
Yes.
Not, 5 different things to explain one thing. Like, it's literally one symbol, and it's beautiful.
Parts, I read an article about it too, and each of the parts means the different things. So the block at the top left means ears to hear, the bit at the bottom means mind to think, and then that line that goes between the two on the right hand side is the undivided attention to focus. It's just beautiful.
It is.
But I think it just really right now is that time that we have to recognize that we need to use all of our senses to listen to each other, to ourselves, notice the things that are happening for us, take a breath, lean on each other, that sort of thing, because if you don't, it's a huge challenge. So the other thing I really wanted to do was I wanted to just talk to you, I guess, about the the rules and what are the rules. And again, I said this the other day too in the last COVID conversation, I didn't want to tell you what the rules are, simply because I thought they'll probably change by tomorrow, and then and then it's irrelevant. So I didn't want to sort of go through, and if you have a case, this is what you have to do. I feel like the place you go for that is SA Health or the Education Standards Board, and you reach out to the appropriate people who can give you the timely advice for your current circumstance and situation. I saw a Facebook chat this morning asking, what do I do? This one child had COVID, and then their family got COVID, and then sort of everyone's contributing, but it was like people from New South Wales and here and everywhere. And I was thinking, it's really not where you get your advice. You need to go and whatever SA, and the idea is, if you choose SA Health and they say one thing, like Amy's currently closed for 7 days, even though now that's not the current rule, you just stick with it until further notice, until they change their minds and say, no, that's okay, you can go. I think, or if you went to the Education Standards Board and they said, no, you can stay open, that's fine, follow their advice, but choose the advice. I would get it in writing, make sure that you've got it in writing that you've had to close or not close. And in particular for CCS, to be able to claim CCS, you need to have it in writing, and to be able to waive the gap fee and everything, you need to have it in writing that you were told to close. But one of the things that I guess, and I think Amy, you'd sort of mentioned that currently a bit of a stressor is staffing, that when you have staff, currently you're closed, so it's a little bit different, but I'm also engaging with lots of services where they're like, oh my God, we've had 4, 5, 6 staff off at a time, and then all of a sudden someone comes back, and then it's the next 3 staff who've been told they're a close contact and they have to be out, and then the rules keep changing. So I guess the advice that we do have currently, and I checked today, so hopefully it's still current, I haven't changed it since I did that, is to share screen. There's a really good page there, and it's just, and I've put the little link, which is www.esb.sa.gov.au /node806, whatever, why, but it's basically the frequently asked questions. And it's a really great page. It just goes in, what if I have a child who's tested positive? What if, you know, this, that, and the other? It's got every, you know, or a lot of questions. So if you haven't been to that, that link, go and have a look. But one of the things that I then just copied this picture over around what can we do about staffing shortages. And they just said that there's obviously you can contact recruitment agencies. The thing that we are aware of is recruitment agencies don't have any staff either at the moment. They're like, yeah, we've got no one. So that's fine. All you do, if you contact recruitment agencies, or actually, you know what, like say you have a staff member call in sick in the morning, and not just sick, but like I have been told I'm a close contact, I can't come to work, right? Cool. What you should do, grab your diary, or, you know, have an online somewhere you would record this, and you just record any steps you took. For example, contacted casual staff, boom, boom, boom. All of them were unable to come. Then I contacted an agency. The agency said they had no staff available. Done. Next one. Then I contacted families and I negotiated bookings where possible. So I knew that Ella and Jackson, their mum works from home, or maybe, you know, I know that their mum doesn't work, and they come in only on a Tuesday. It's now Tuesday, and actually if I could get them not to come in, that would bring the nursery down to 8, not 10, and so I would not need that extra staff. Do you know what I mean? So you can contact, who did I say? Ella and Jackson's mum or whatever. I can't remember their names now. So you can contact her and say, are you able to not bring the children in today? We can look at a different day. Obviously, you won't be charged, all of that sort of stuff. So you are well within your rights to follow the priority of care rulings. And for anyone who doesn't work, you can contact them. Again, I would look at how can you systemize that? How can you automate that in a way so that if you do have lots of staff who are not coming in, or you're really short on staff, you could have like literally people, you know, families flagged who currently don't work, or one parent works, one parent doesn't, or something like that. Or you could, like, so again, in preparation, you could even reach out to families and ask them to do a survey, you know, like literally, would you be able to change days if we required? Would you would you be able to change days if we required? Would you be able to access alternative care arrangements if we were unable to take your children on this day? That sort of stuff, so that then you can go, you know what, I've got 10 families a day or 5 families a day who I can contact as my priority to say, is there any chance we can shift your days? And right now we're just postponing, like we're just cancelling your care, and I'll reach out to you this afternoon when things settle down, and we'll look at alternative days or something like that, so that you can just handle it. You can reduce the numbers to reduce your staff requirements if necessary. The other thing is use the Regulation 126, educators employed on a probationary period or basis in their first 3 months are not required to comply with qualification requirements. So that was that new law that came out, or new regulation that came out not that long ago. So for example, they're suggesting, I know whether we believe in it or not, but it doesn't matter, it's there. They're saying go for it. If you needed to, you could contact, you know, students you've previously had. You could contact, you know, anyone. You could contact the uni that you're near, or TAFE that you're near, or OSH services that you know. You know, you might have some staff who work just for morning, for before school care, who could come and then work the, you know, a 4-hour shift for you in the day. And they wouldn't be going over their hours, or they just do afternoon, you know, evening care or something. So reach out to those different organisations, TAFEs, people who have already, you obviously need, you're working with children checks, like those things are a requirement. They need to be over 18 if you're going to be leaving them alone, that sort of stuff. You need all their paperwork. But again, heading into this time, you know, there's probably value in starting to get a list of people who would possibly be able to do that. And then what I would just do is be very clear about tracking that 3-month period, that you don't go over that 3-month period without them beginning their studies or, or finishing up. So being really mindful of that. If you were to do that, I think there's a number of things that obviously, but this is my perspective, but a number of things that need to go into the preparation of that. I would be making sure that they're in a room with lots of other educators, or, not left on their own. They could be the person who runs errands, like, doing the laundry, running to the kitchen, grabbing trolleys, things like that, if possible, because they're not qualified. But they could definitely reduce some burden on the team to have someone like that around. So the other thing you can do is you can reduce your numbers by capping. So you can cap your numbers and bookings. Has anyone had to do that yet? Have you guys had to cap numbers or anything, or reduce bookings? No. Actually, you guys at El Nido, have you had any cases? Yeah, in the centre or just in the community?
So we've had a staff, we've had in the community, we've had siblings, but we've been very fortunate that like their parents have contacted us, but they didn't show symptoms, or it wasn't the 2 days. And then obviously they've stayed home, and then the other siblings and family members have got it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
We had one, but we've gone with the sheet from that as of the 31st with close contacts and the RAT tests and all of that. And so some staff we're doing the opt-in, opt-out, and then obviously we're doing the 7-day RAT test for the close contacts as well.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So look, but you could on any one day or over a long period of time, if you go, you know what, we just can't stay open till 6:30, we're going to have to close at 5:30 because our staffing isn't isn't meeting this. You just need to do your notification through the Education Standards Board, and make sure you're adhering to the CCS laws. That's something that you can sort of forget to make sure you've covered. But that could be even something that, again, if you were to survey all your parents just to get a feel for, or your families, just to get a feel for what possible flexibility they have, is that you could ask, if these were the options, we can't please everyone and we may not use this, but if these were the options, which would you choose? And they might say, to open later, or you might find that you open at 6:30 and nobody gets there till 7 or 7:30 anyway. So, that might be some way that you could reduce that burden for staff as well. And or you can also apply for a waiver. So say you got one of those people in who was really good, they're not qualified over that 3 months or within that 3 months, you could potentially apply for a waiver with some evidence that they're pretty skilled or transferable skills. They used to be a educator or something, and then their qualifications are not current or something like that. And I guess the other thing that so I'll end that, but that's where you can access all your frequently asked questions if you need to. What was the other one that people were just saying? Someone said that they wanted to talk about families not taking it seriously. So not sort of being, adhering to the rules, or not wearing masks, or not taking just the whole situation seriously. Have you experienced that at all with your families? No, Amy? No, not for you guys? No. All right. That's all right. I can, if that person reaches out, I can go back and look who that was, and I can reach out to them if they need a hand with that. All right. Well, is there anything else that you really wanted to discuss that we haven't chatted about, or that you'd like to review or anything? No? All right.
Sorry, Amy, where are you from?
I'm from Mount Gambier, so community.
Oh,
community
okay.
Yeah, yeah, so in the country.
Beautiful.
And you have
And
to
how
say
many
it like that, Mount
Yeah.
Gambier.
How many places are you?
We have 70 children a day and we're at 100%. So
Wow, that's excellent.
yeah,
Beautiful.
it's good
All right.
fun.
Nice to meet you.
Used to.
Amy used to be in my team when I was an area manager, so we worked very closely together. In Mount Gambier. I always tease them about the way they say it. All right, so look, moving forward, I haven't scheduled another COVID conversation. I'm not sure if people are still interested to have them, or whether I give it a couple of weeks break now and see. I don't know. Obviously it's tricky for people to all come anyway. What do you think?
Michelle, I'll just add that I do find lots of value in this, and when the new rules come out, I actually took on some of the feedback and the conversations that were had in conversation 1 and 2 to be able to really inform the team, because they were, I guess, like the outside perspectives about us having to get tested and us being called like animals and whatever. It's just like that's fine, that's your opinion. However, this is my professional opinion, and this is where I've gathered that information from. So therefore, this is what I'm going to let you know that I think it's all about, and the team responded really well to that, instead of those outside perspectives all the time. But that's because I have the opportunity to be able to source that information where they, like my team, for example, don't necessarily get that chance because they're working with children all the time. So they rely on myself to gather that and to be able to pass that on to them in a more informed way, I suppose. So like, I certainly do see value in getting together and having a chat and learning from everyone. But yeah, that's just my opinion.
Cool. All right, no worries. What about you guys?
I don't know, Amy, are you on CESA as well?
No, we use Explore.
No, as in like the community.
No.
I don't know, Michelle, if it's another avenue for you is maybe to reach out to them to see if they want to advertise through them as well for you, just so you can get larger.
Yeah, lots of people coming.
Yeah, because I know we had like a meeting the other day, and then some people were feeling this, some people feeling that. So then they held just another one just so people can have the discussions and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's another avenue or something, but I can
afterwards to flick me an email with who to reach out to. I know there's been a few changes lately, so that would be great. So I think we've
been back in on Wednesday, so I'll do that Wednesday for you.
No worries. And look, I think I will continue it. Is there a particular day that works better for people, do you know, or like for directors? It's just hectic all the time at the moment. So yeah, I just put it in, and we can I can record them and share them with people who want to listen in. But yeah, all right. Well, I will schedule another one and just check on my website. Obviously, I've also got some other training coming up. I've got the power equipping coming up, which is a new way to do your quality improvement plan. You're doing that, aren't you, Amy?
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
Okay.
So good.
I love hearing people say they love their quality improvement plan. That's exciting. So look, I run those sessions like a couple every month online. It's really easy, and you get a template to start your new power equipping quality improvement plan, which is really interactive and fun, and a way to showcase your service. And I've got my training calendar, so please feel free to share with people. I've got some sessions about critical reflection and about recording children's voices, listening deeply to children, lots of things like that. So check out my website for all of that information. But thank you guys so much for participating today. I hope that this has helped you in even any small way. Would warm my heart to make, to know that you're feeling a bit more supported and connected. I'm just an email away, so reach out if you need a hand.
Thanks heaps,
All right.
Michelle. And I really loved the symbol. I think that's
I
one thing
know.
that I'll definitely take
Yeah.
away from today.
Awesome.
Obviously the gratefulness, gratitude and stuff as well. But yeah, I think the symbol really hit home. So
Awesome.
thank you for that. I really
That's
appreciate
right.
it. It was lovely to meet you, Amy, too.
You too. Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you. Good luck with everything.
Thank
Bye.
you. See ya.
Bye.